There's some new economic data that's been released in the past hour showing inflation has cooled more than expected. The Department of Labor and Statistics say inflation rose 0.2% in January and 2.4% year over year. That is less than expected and closer to the Fed's 2% goal. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at the White House with more. So, Natalie, does this new data reflect what the administration has been saying about the economy, which is that it is due for a rate cut? And now, as we get closer to that 2%, which is the Fed target, that might be in the cards.
Yeah, and they're trying to make the case that things are improving in 2026. That is what they are hoping. They are touting what they say will be an economic boom later this year. Of course, it's also a critical midterms year. And voters, from talking to us and in polls have clearly expressed that how the president talks about the economy hasn't matched what they're feeling at home. But now we'll have to see if that changes in the months ahead. The White House now touting positive news, positive economic news in two reports this week, if we think earlier in the week to the jobs report and now the CPI. But again, a lot remains to be seen, even as the White House touts some improvements.
Turning to another top story, Natalie, this is something I've been reading a lot about. What do we know about this EPA rollback the president is calling, quote, the single largest deregulation action in American history?
Yeah, and Adriana, again, the White House is framing this as a cost savings for the consumer, and also, argues that that key 2009 endangerment finding damaged the U.S. auto industry. The president called it a scam. But, what's important to note is that finding from the Obama administration's EPA was really the backbone of a lot of federal efforts to regulate emissions from sources like cars, trucks, power plants, because it found that greenhouse gases pose a threat to public health and welfare, and therefore could be regulated under the Clean Air Act. This White House disagrees with that. They say they disagree with the legal premise. And so CBS News' Weijia Zhang tried to press the EPA administrator on the environmental impacts as a result. Take a listen to part of the exchange.
So you're saying regardless of the science, regardless of the, hurting the environment, you have to do this on a technicality?
Well, first off, I would reject emphatically the notion that it harms the environment. But again, regardless of opinion or fact, I have to follow the law, and the Clean Air Act does not authorize the action that was taken. I also, as I mentioned earlier, know that manufacturers are not looking to just make believe like all of their amazing advancements in the way that they've developed all different kinds of engines are just going to get reversed in time a couple of decades. We're continuing to move forward. But what we don't need is $1.3 trillion of added regulatory costs.
Environmental groups, though, argue that climate impacts will drive up costs in the long run. They are sounding the alarm over this, as well as some blue states who are threatening to sue, including California, which said if this reckless decision survives legal challenges, it will lead to more extreme heat deaths, more climate-driven floods and droughts, and greater threats to communities nationwide. So the bottom line is this legal challenge will now play out in court, and we'll have to see how long that process takes. It could be years. Vlad, Adriana.
For us at the White House, thank you.